With Baldur's Gate, we sparked a role-playing renaissance. Now, a multiplayer revolution. Share an epic story of faith, war, and betrayal, as it engulfs the windswept coastline of the Sea of Swords. Play beneath the all-seeing gaze of an all-powerful dungeon master, a human mind, there to breathe life into every aspect of your unfolding tale. Welcome to Neverwinter Nights.
Alright guys, Arcane here. Today I'm going to be talking about why Neverwinter Nights is one of the best games of all time and what makes this game so special. I know I might be biased considering my entire channel is all about this game, still I'm going to give some reasons as to why you should consider this game if you haven't played it already, or maybe you've been playing this game but aren't fully aware of the potential and greatness of this game. I'm going to give my reasons as to why I think this game is great, and I may miss some reasons off this list, but I think some of the reasons I'll suggest in this video will be things that many may not think of when it comes to NWN. If you do come up with a reason that I haven't mentioned in this video, then leave it as a comment down below so others can read and think about it. So, let's get into the first reason. Neverwinter Nights is a video game that came out in 2002 and is based on the tabletop role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition to be exact. It became stagnant after many years, but was revived by an enhanced edition released by Beamdog in 2018. A typical goal of the game would be to create a character from first level and to try to achieve the maximum level of 40. You're probably watching this video now wondering why this game is special to many, including me. Well, the first reason may be somewhat controversial, but I think the official campaigns are good. Now you might be thinking, what's controversial about that? Well, I also think the original campaign, now called the Wailing Death campaign, is also good. If you're a part of this community, then you've probably heard that the original campaign isn't good and the developers just use it as an example to showcase the toolset. But I don't think the original campaign is that bad. I understand that it can get a bit tedious at times, especially if you're replaying the first chapter, but I think it can offer quite a lot to a new player or someone new to D&D. For example, it introduces you to the game well. The prelude acts like a tutorial on the game, and how it gets the player straight into it without them having to search for anything. I also don't think the story is that bad. It might not be the greatest story ever told in D&D, but I think it's good enough for players to have an enjoyable experience. It has many side quests that a player could explore in each chapter. It's also not too challenging for new players. They could roll up a simple character like a basic fighter, and they should be able to complete it from start to finish. With the other reason I'm going to talk about later in this video, this could easily become a campaign that one could replay, as I've done for many years. I think the second chapter of the OC is quite well written. For example, Charwood is good, going into this haunted forest and trying to figure out why all these people are stuck in some time loop. Or going into Neverwinter Wood and trying to save the spirit of the forest. These concepts from a D&D and fantasy perspective aren't that bad. Sometimes when people talk about the OC, they give off the impression that the OC is a 3 out of 10, when really it's more of a 6 out of 10, or maybe higher than that even. I think this perspective came from the fact that people had very high expectations at the time because of Baldur's Gate 2, which came before NWN, and so they're expecting a masterpiece, and when that wasn't delivered, suddenly it was the whole "the OC is terrible and should be avoided" mentality, because it didn't quite live up to expectations. In fact, when this game was first released, it was the opposite. Many loved the original campaign, and many of the magazines at the time praised it. It was only later that people started to criticise it, so all I can say to new players who haven't played it before is to give it a chance, and if you really don't like it, then you always have something else in NWN to play. These thoughts also extend to the expansions like Shadows of Undrentide and Halls of the Underdark. I do agree that these expansions are better than the original campaign, but that doesn't mean the OC is unplayable and should be avoided. If you're really not a big fan of the OC, then you always have these to play. These expansions have more of a role-playing element to them. Also, the stories behind them are good. And the two expansions are linked, so you'd make a first level character in SOU and then continue with the same character in HOTU. HOTU is probably the best of the three. It's for high level characters, and you also finish in the epic levels. Each chapter has a unique theme attached to it. It's a lot of fun. For example, in Chapter 2 of Hordes of the Underdark, you can talk to a smith and add certain enhancements to your weapon. In Shadows of Undrentide, if you're playing a paladin, after completing the Elven Crypts in Chapter 1, you're gifted some unique items only paladins can use. Most players have enjoyed Shadows of Undrentide and Hordes of the Underdark. The other official content, such as Kingmaker from what I've heard, isn't too bad either, so it might be worth trying them if you manage to finish the campaign and expansions. Just based on the official content alone, you have many hours of playing ahead of you, and in the end a player could have a lot of fun with this and create good memories either on their own or with friends. Since the release of the Enhanced Edition, new premium modules have been released, and some of them can even be purchased, such as Darkness over Daggerford, and as far as I know, the creator of these premium modules is currently working on more premium content. So to this day, NWN is still getting new premium content and updates. Okay, it's time to talk about the community content. This is a massive reason as to why NWN is special. This alone is worth the price tag. First, we have the NW Vault, which is a website you can go to download community content. The main reason you would go there would be to download modules, which are basically scenarios people have created that you can play. So yes, that technically means NWN has an infinite amount of content to play, since people could just make more content if it runs out. Kinda like pen and paper D&D. It would take an extraordinary amount of time to finish all the modules that people have created on the Vault. Remember, this is the newer version of the Vault. There used to be an older version of the Vault hosted on IGN that has now been shut down, which had even more modules. This aspect of the game is one of the reasons why NWN is still around after 20 plus years. So, once you finish the official content, you now have all the community content to get through. If you browse the Hall of Fame modules or look at modules at the highest rating, 10 being the highest, you'll most likely discover modules that are even better than the best official campaign expansion, Hordes of the Underdark. Modules such as the Prophet series, Swordflight, Alien Saga, Eye of the Bold, etc. It would take me too long to list all these modules, but these are some of the more popular ones that are well regarded in the community. And yes, these are all free to download and play. You would be witnessing the many years of hard work some people have put into these scenarios. I think we sometimes don't fully appreciate the amount of work that goes into these modules, how every room was designed, how every item was placed and rotated, how every conversation was written, how every script was used and tested. It would have taken many hours to do so, and once finished it is a work of art. These mod makers are artists, and their masterpiece is their module. Swordflight is still being developed to this day, and that started around about 12 years ago. If you really love the official content like the OC, then people have actually made modules to explore what happened afterwards. So for example, there's a module series called Sands of Fate, which explores your Hordes of the Underdark character after the end of Hordes of the Underdark. An idea I've had, and I'm sure others have had too, is that you could make a character in Shadows of Undrentide, then play a module like the Nether Scrolls, which is a bridge module between Shadows of Undrentide and Hordes of the Underdark, then play Hordes of the Underdark, and then play Sands of Fate. This probably could take your first level character up to level 40. If you've purchased the game through Steam, you could browse community content through the Steam Workshop. As with other games, NWN also has mods you can install. So let's say you've played through all the official content, and now want to make things more interesting. You can install mods such as the AI mod. This mod will make the enemies more intelligent. In the base game, an enemy will typically just run up to your PC and then attack. However, with this mod, enemies are now going to move silent mode, try to use the taunt skill, use knockdown and disarm more often, etc. Enemy casts will now summon their familiars which will attack you. Enemies won't just stand around and wander aimlessly. It now makes skills such as spot and listen far more useful. It means fighters have a reason to obtain concentration as a skill so they can resist taunting. Another mod that everyone installs is CEP. This is essentially a massive overhaul of the game. It is basically an expansion pack. It introduces so many new things that you actually shouldn't play the game without having this installed, because some module creators actually use CEP tile sets and placeables to create their modules. You could also install a mod called PRC, which stands for Player Resource Consortium. This mod is again a complete overhaul. It introduces hundreds of new classes, new races, new skills and new feats. Everything. So if you manage to get bored with just the base game, which is saying something, then you can install PRC. There are lots of mods you can install that can change the game, and you can find many of these on the Steam Workshop or the Vault. So as you can see, Neverwinter Nights already seems different to other games just based on the community content alone. And yes, I still have more reasons if you're not convinced yet. Also, while browsing the Vault and Steam, you can stumble across other interesting things, such as Project Reforged, which aims to redesign all the textures and skins for items and monsters. The base look is very cool already, but if you fancy a different look, there you go. The skins of the monsters and their animation are also amazing. However, you could install the mod Creatures Override, which does exactly what it says on the tin. So, you know when I said earlier that people have spent years making modules such as the Prophet series? Well, those people would have used something called the toolset. And yes, you can use it too. It's not even that complicated to use. You just launch the toolset, then follow the wizard, then click on the different tabs, then click and drop. It's so intuitive to use. The great thing about the toolset is that it's easy to use, but it's still powerful and functional. You only need to look at the modules people have made to understand its capabilities. It can be as simple as you want it to be with drag and drop, or it can be as complicated as you need it to be with advanced scripting. So when I said NWN technically has an infinite amount of content available, that wasn't an over-exaggeration. You literally could create your own scenarios like in pen and paper D&D, which, correct me if I'm wrong, no other video game has replicated since. Well, not to the same level as NWN. If that isn't good enough for you, well, there's a Dungeon Master option NWN. So yes, you've had that right, you could create your own entire scenario and then DM it. So if you want an NPC to do something that hasn't already been scripted to do, or to say some dialogue that hasn't already been written, or an NPC to move to a different location that hasn't already been set, you can just do all that as the DM. I don't think people appreciate how magical this is. With the toolset and DM option, you can literally run a scenario that's quite close to pen and paper D&D. Now, it might not be the exact same and as limitless, but it's still pretty good. And if you want to, you can install a mod called DMFI, which stands for Dungeon Master Friendly Initiative, into the module you've created, which gives the DM more tools to run the modules more easily. I think the fact that NWN is the video game that's closest to pen and paper D&D is what sets it apart from other games in the same genre. Giving people control and creativity similar to actual D&D is really important. Another thing that I have thought of that I don't think many others have considered is that NWN also has VR potential. You can install a mod that creates a first-person experience, and using Warp X, you can turn NWN into a VR experience. Unfortunately, this only works on the Diamond Edition, I believe. This is pretty complicated and might be a bit tricky to set up, but that would be something, wouldn't it? All of your friends are playing VR D&D in some scenario you've created and DM'd. Some kind of game company should make a Neverwinter Nights 3 or another D&D game with this capability. Machinima. This might not be that applicable to players, but to builders this is an interesting concept. With the toolset you can create your own movies by using the cutscene system. In fact, somebody has already done that on YouTube years ago. I think it's pretty cool that you can create your own short films by using the NWN toolset. This just shows how versatile this game is. I even remember reading once that a university or college used the NWN toolset to teach coding. Multiplayer. Okay, this is massive. This is kind of following up from what I was talking about earlier with building your own scenarios and using the Dungeon Master to manage it. So at the most basic level, you can just have a party of a few players and then just play the original campaign and have a good time. This is great and you should do it. It's a simple way of making the original campaign more fun to play. You could also play the original campaign and have a DM in the background. This alone would completely alter the experience. Just imagine, your party is travelling throughout the academy and the tough goblin that you normally must face after acquiring power as a henchman is now a tough goblin that has retreated to an undisclosed location. Just as one change has immediately made things more interesting and different. You also have something called persistent servers or persistent worlds. So yeah, many years ago, people essentially created these mini MMOs where you can just log into them, create a new character, and then depending on the server, roleplay your character like a pen and paper D&D character. Interact with other players who are also roleplaying their characters. In the end, you end up with this interactive, open-ended world controlled by a team of DMs, and the actions of players have an effect. This is why most people love this game. This is what they have fond memories of, logging into some server, role-playing a character, and interacting with others. The most popular server would be something like Aralith that you could log into. This aspect of the game was very unique when NWN was first released. It was one of the few games that actually offered an MMO experience in those days. You often hear people tell stories of how they adventured in one of these servers with a party, how they all became lifelong friends, and spent countless hours exploring untamed lands. For many, this reason alone was why they played NWN back in the day, and why NWN became their favourite game of all time. Another big reason is the community itself. Even to this day, there's still an active NWN community, where there are people still updating the game, leaving comments on the subreddit, creating discussions in Steam, people like me making videos, and others making modules, such as the guy who's still making new chapters for Swordflight. There are even people who write fan fiction for the game, since there are people out there who love the official content and are big fans of Arabith, for example. This community is still active even after 20 plus years. Now don't get me wrong, it's not the same as it used to be when it was first introduced, but how many games that are 20 plus years old and are still active and alive? Not many. The community nowadays is small, however the members that make it up are passionate NWN fans, and it's this community that is making new modules for you to play, keeping the servers running, giving tips and tricks on how to beat a certain enemy in the campaign. Class builds. This has always been quite a fun part of the NWN experience. In NWN you have many base classes and prestige classes. Typically you can multi-class up to 3 classes in total. However, in a recent update you can now multi-class up to 8 classes if you enable it. So you can imagine all the fun builds you can create yourself, or builds you can use based on others' ideas. In fact, you can go to a website called World of Greyhawk GitHub and you can find hundreds of builds people have created that you could follow for your next NWN character. So if you're interested in building a force of destruction that just wipes out all enemies, then you can do just that by creating a Scythe Weapon Master, or a level 40 Sorcerer with Isaac's Greater Missile Storm, or a level 40 Monk with Epic Spell Resistance that practically makes immune to spells that have to bypass spell resistance, even if it were cast by a level 40 Sorcerer with Epic Spell Penetration, or a dual-wielding Karma Monk that does 10 attacks per round, or you could make a Smiting Paladin that can just one-hit evil dragons, or a Hide in Plain Sight Rogue that just spams the Move Silent button and just sneak attacks. Oh, if this isn't enough for you, well, remember I told you about that mod called PRC, which adds hundreds of classes. You can see where this is going. With that mod installed, you can create a dual-wielding Scimitar Weapon Master with as many offhand attacks as his main hand. It's just endless. Within these builds you have many skills and feats to choose from, and for prestige classes, often you have prerequisites that you have to meet, such as for Weapon Master you need the feats Expertise, Dodge, Mobility, Spring Attack, Weapon Focus, Whirlwind Attack, and Base Attack Bonus +6. For skills you need 4 points in Intimidate. Once you've reached these you then unlock the Weapon Master class. With all these skills and feats to choose from within each class, it's very comprehensive, and remember, PRC only adds more to these. And not to mention you can roleplay these characters differently too, so even with a basic fighter you could roleplay each one differently, give different backgrounds, different weapons, etc. I think it's important not to forget the roleplay element, since it's what makes D&D D&D. In NWN you can write the background of your own character, create your own journal entries, use voice commands in your character's voice, use different emotes and use the text to chat as your character or as a player. Okay, this next reason I think is a little underrated and I haven't seen anyone really mention it before when it comes to Neverwinter Nights, but custom challenges. When you look at other games like RuneScape, challenges made up by the player himself is quite a normal thing. You know what I mean. My character can't do X, Y and Z to make the gameplay more interesting and challenging. The classic one would be Permadeath Hardcore, which has actually been incorporated into quite a few games like Diablo, RuneScape, Minecraft, etc. Well, I think taking these kinds of challenges makes the game far more interesting. In fact, it's why I've been playing this game for as long as I have. I once set myself the challenge to finish the OC, SOU and HOTU with the same character without dying once. So if you do find the OC to be boring and you're playing single player, why not give this a go? Just see how far you can get without dying on a deadly trap or a powerful foe. You'll be surprised how fun this can be. And the good thing about this is that it's really down to your imagination. You could easily make many custom challenges for yourself to keep the game engaging. And of course, if you apply to other modules, then you can really be playing Neverwinter Nights for probably forever. Another interesting challenge would be to create a leveling system beyond level 40, for example maybe up to level 100, and you figure out the XP for each level. If I remember correctly, a persistent server might have done this, or perhaps a mod, but I'm not sure. But it has always intrigued me, the idea of taking the level cap off. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the sound design of this game. I think the music is incredible. It's one of the best soundtracks I've listened to from a game. This should be no surprise since Jeremy Soule is the composer. Yes, you heard that right, Jeremy Soule is the composer, and he composed soundtracks for games such as Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, etc. You've probably heard of the game called Skyrim, which is considered one of the best games of all time by many, and he composed the soundtrack for that. Neverwinter Nights would be considered one of his earlier works, and would have been composed around the same time as Morrowind, I imagine, since both games came out around the same time. So the music is very good at creating this sense of awe and mystery like in those games. The ambience and sound effects are also done really well. When you're wandering around in a forest, it can be very atmospheric because of how well this is done. Each environment and its sounds have been crafted in a way that makes the experience magical. You can hear the character's footsteps in the snow when traversing a mountain. You can hear the shriek of a goblin being slain by your character's sword. It's something that hasn't really been mentioned in reviews of the game, but is quite underrated. It's something that's quite integral to the NWN experience, which leads to my last and final point. The nostalgia and other intangibles. When you put all these things together, the music, the graphics, the quests, the stories, the atmosphere, you create something that gives off this otherworldly vibe, this sense of adventure. It draws you in. It makes you want to put on some headphones and just wander these lands and get lost in them. There's something quite amazing about the idea of creating a character, loading up some module and having this adventure. And this is only amplified when you play with others. From the voices you can choose for your character to the emotes such as looking afar or the voice commands you can use such as follow, it all leads to this unique experience. All of these intangibles come together to create the NWN experience. So this is why Neverwinter Nights is special and one of the best games of all time. I have received much enjoyment out of this game. I've been playing this game for over 15 years now. I can honestly say that I'm nowhere near completing this game. There are still many more modules to play, more challenges to test myself, persistent servers to join. Saying you've completed Neverwinter Nights is akin to saying you've completed D&D. It just doesn't work that way. You're not just buying a game, you're buying a scenario and world builder with dungeon master capabilities. You're buying a video game that had the vision of bringing the experience of pen and paper D&D to the computer screen. I hope this video gave you some interesting ideas that you haven't thought about before about this game, and you end up enjoying the game as much as I have for all these years. We can only hope that one day a game company comes along and creates a Neverwinter Nights 3 that is very similar to Neverwinter Nights 1, but with the upgraded graphics, VR compatibility, easy to use but still powerful toolset, persistent servers, and the many other features that made NWN 1 special. That would be an amazing game indeed.